How y'all doing? Today I brought together this presentation. It's called The Greek Father of History, Herodotus. And I want y'all to check it out. Share the video. I'm going to give y'all some knowledge on, the father of history, the so-called father of history. You know what I'm saying? Because this the guy who they saying like the first person to document history. So this a big dude, and they story, you know what I'm saying? So he traveled, he did a lot of travels all over the world, you know what I'm saying? And so he went out and documented a lot of stuff. So like this one of they big dogs when it comes to history. So I want y'all to see what he got to say about the ancient Africans who was living in the area that we call the Holy Land in Africa and the Middle East, the Arabs, you know what I'm saying? The Phoenicians, we gonna talk about even the people who lived in who lived at that time in Europe who were black, So I want to give y'all a lot of what he said. They first historian. So let's tap in. Yeah. All right, we got Herodotus, right? And so this comes from the book of Herodotus, the history, and it got a gang of books in here. When he went to different places and documented a lot of stuff. And this book actually like 1,000 some pages long. I forgot, but let me see right quick. Yeah, it's pretty big book. So it's a lot of stuff in here. And I'm gonna put the link in the description to this book if y'all want to get it. It's free. You can search Google. Pull a book up, Herodotus, the history, download it yourself. But this is what I want to focus on right here, which is book 2, interpret what he said. He's just giving this rundown on a lot of stuff that happened. So what I did was I went in and took some notes and went and, highlighted a little stuff that I wanted y'all to see because I want to expound on certain things. So let me get to that. So 1 second, y'all. But go ahead and read ahead and get an understanding if you want to. I'm gonna break some of it down though. Give me 1 hot second. It's him right here, Herodotus. You know what I'm saying? And, he ain't the father of nothing, They just say that because he's just the oldest of their people to go and document it. So, but yeah, this here right here say that, and this him speaking, chapter 2, before the reign of their king Passamithicus, they believed themselves to be the most ancient of mankind. They did some kind of little crazy test about it to just try to see, but it was funny. Y'all gotta go read it, man. It's kind of crazy, but I don't really want to focus on that. But what they told me concerning their religion is not my intention to repeat, except the name of their deities. So really, what he's telling you is that he learned a lot of stuff about their religion, but he don't want to repeat none of it except the name of their deities or their gods, because it's just gonna be a rundown on different stuff that dealing with their gods and stuff. That's what we're dealing with, some spiritual stuff, but understanding it from a more foreign, not even foreign, a more ancient, mindset. You know what I'm saying? And even though he was a Greek, so he was coming from outside into Egypt and learning this stuff, or to Kemet, you know what I'm saying? Which he himself gonna mention the word Kemet, and that's my first time actually ever seeing it. And they kind of blew my mind because that's what they was calling themselves, a group of these people who lived in Egypt at that time, Kemites. Kemet, you know what I'm saying? Chemists was the name of the land. They were Kemites. So they was the first to discover the solar year and to portion out its course into 12 parts. So they tell you that they discovered the calendar. They obtained this knowledge from the stars, you know what I'm saying? So he just telling you what they was telling him that they did, you know what I'm saying? to my mind, they contrived the year more cleverly than the Greeks. You know what I'm saying? And it goes on to explain it, Let me go down some, because it's going to take a while, so I'm just trying to speed stuff up. Y'all can go in there and read it, pause it yourself, whatever, and check it out, So they went on to affirm, first brought into the use of the names of the 12 gods, which the Greeks adopted from them and erected the first altars, images, and temples to the gods. Shells, salt. Just trying to go through this fast. It has a soil that is black and crumbly, being alluvia and formed from the deposits brought down from the river Ethiopia. Ethiopia is at the south of the Nile River. That's where it actually starts at, from a mountain, second highest mountain in the world, called Mount Kilimanjaro. And the water flows from that mountain up and comes out, at the top of Egypt. So it flows from south to north. So when they say up, they mean down. And when they say down, they mean up. So the river flows up, it don't flow down. That's what they're saying. Ionians, this is another group of black people concerning Egypt. We must come to the conclusion that the Egyptians had formerly no country at all. For the Ionians say nothing is really Egypt but the delta, which means the top part, which extends along the shore from the watchtower of Perseus and is called to the Pelusiatic, whatever that is, South Plains. But either which way, go through a lot of stuff there. Y'all can pause and read it. But certain stuff, like I said, I want to tap into. Say that Egyptians affirm, as myself am persuaded, is formed from the deposit of the river, and has only recently, if I may use the expression, come to light. They had formed no territory at all. How come they be so extravagant in the world? And then Herodotus says itself that I think they have always existed ever since the human race began, as the land went on increasing from that water, from that mountain flowing up. Part of the population came down into the new country. Like I'm telling you, down is up. The new country is Egypt. They come from Ethiopia. He gonna confirm it later on. So I'm just showing y'all how this stuff line up. And I'm going ahead of myself, but hey, I'm just trying to show y'all where I'm going. Okay, so now it flows out of Libya through Ethiopia and it don't flow out of Libya, but regardless, to Egypt it is how possibly can be formed of melted snow. He go into all that, so I'm gonna let y'all read that, but I just want to tap into this part right here. It is certain that the natives of the country are black with the heat. So he's telling you that the natives of this country, which is this stuff right here, but they got conquered and made a little lighter. You know what I'm saying? The lighter breeze always did, but you at the top of Egypt, top of Africa, it ain't that hot up there. But the natives were still black with the heat. They tell you the ones above the Elephantine is the Ethiopians, who possess one half of the island, and the Egyptians occupy the other. You know what I'm saying? Understand that they telling you that they the same people coming from Ethiopia up into Egypt. That's how the Nile flows. So they migrated from there to there, and he gonna say that. Okay, only the gods worshipped by the inhabitants. Inhabitants are Jupiter and Bacchus, to whom great honors are paid. So there's an oracle in Jupiter's city, which is Osiris city, city of Asar. We're going to get into that in a second, which directs the warlike expeditions of the Ethiopians. When it commands them to go to war in whatever direction it bids them march, thither straightway they carry their arms. So what it's saying is that they got a temple where they worship at by the Ethiopians. And it's called the Jupiter and Bacchus. And that's where they go in and but let me tap into there right quick. So 1 second. So when we talk about Jupiter in the Egyptian god mythology, we talk about Marduk, the great god of the Babylonians. His planet was Jupiter. There's also Amun of the Egyptians. Zeus of the Greeks was the same planet. Jupiter of the Romans, as the name shows, was again the same planet. So what it's telling you is that all these gods are tied to certain energies of certain planets. And so that's how they described it with the energies of the planets, because they watched the stars and they gave these concepts of, this planet controls, when this bloom, when that come in the season, how these animals act. So they tied everything with nature and gave these gods these type of different energies or whatever. So they tied the main god in all these different traditions with Jupiter, which is Osiris in the ancient Egyptian tradition. So as I'm finna tap into now, Pan, Osiris, and Jupiter. Like the Greek Pan, the god Osiris in ancient Egypt is considered to be a god of just about all things. Osiris was the god of the afterlife, the king of heaven and hell, the king of eternity, the king of the living, the master of the souls. Sound like Jehovah, or the one y'all call God right now to me. He appears as the ram, Mendes, and the sovereign of Amenti. Okay, let's go back to the ram. The ram or the goat. We're talking about energies. What does a ram do? A ram sits up on the hill by itself and watch everything. While the sheep sit below, being led by, the shepherd, the one in control, the one with the power, the one with the stick to hit him and make him go where he wants to go. So the goat do his own thing. It's up on the hill, gonna kick something down too if you come up there messing with it. So it's like he going on his own path, while the sheep, they just, and that's what they can say, shepherd, So, or flock, the flock gonna follow, But the goat gonna do his own thing. He understands that sometimes following is not good, So hence the Greek Pan was the half human goat, and Osiris was the ram of Egypt. Both represent all things in the planet Jupiter, who gave life and light to the planet Earth. So we're talking about some spiritual stuff tied up with physical deities who manifest, different energies here on the planet. Spiritually speaking, that's how we kind of, but that's what he's talking about. You got to understand and know, So back to what I was saying. So we get here, they talk about Jupiter and Bacchus. See, they can say the Egyptian words. They didn't speak the language. They came to get there to Egypt to get educated, because that was the most, powerful place. I'm going to let him say it, because he going to say it, So that was where all of the skilled people and the people with all the knowledge of the spirituality, all this and that's where they live. So like, says, on leaving this city and again mounting the stream. We talking about traveling. These deserters are Egyptians of the warrior caste, who to the number of 240,000 went over to the Ethiopians in the reign of Pasamithicus. Their cause of their desertion was the following, and I'm gonna let y'all read that. Just pause it here if you need to. But it's just talking about some stuff they went through. They was at war with each other, They had a lot of little stuff going on, or whatever. And, but like I say, the link in the description with the book, so you can go and read it yourself. But from this time that this settlement was formed, their acquaintance with Egyptian manner has tended to civilize the Ethiopians. So the Egyptians, once they traveled up the Nile over so many generations, a lot of them forgot that they came from Egypt. So they was going to war with their own ancestors or their own people, So that's why it's good to know your history, because if you don't, it can end up like that. And it says, this is how they was living. You can screenshot it, but the women can serve priestly office either for God or a goddess. And that's what I want to tap in. For every god in Egypt, it was a goddess. And so during this ancient time, every god had an opposite. So even God itself had a brother, or Satan, who was the opposite of himself, who was evil, or the concept of evil. You know what I'm saying? And so now this evil has to have a representative. It was like a donkey head. His name was Set, and that's why y'all get the word Satan from. You know what I'm saying? So it's just an older tradition of or older concept of a newer, opposite of God, which I would say is Satan, which I would say is this picture right here, which is make sure, which would be pain, but symbolism, how to look at this thing, it's just telling you there's two opposites. Up top of here will be the light. On the bottom down there will be the darkness. See those two moons, as above, so below. That's why I got one arm pointing up, my higher self, one arm pointing down, my lower self. You know what I'm saying? Right there in the middle, where you got the two snakes, that's showing you the energy. You got a positive polarity, you got the negative polarity. You can use your angels, you can use your demons. You know what I'm saying? You can use your sexual energy, your kundalini, to rise yourself from your lower state to your higher state. So the star on the head is the higher self. You know what I'm saying? We call it a demon or physical reality because it's 5 point. Because 5 point means the physical and 6 point means the spiritual. So it's just opposites of each other. And at the top where the flame is, that means that your third eye is open. You got that light. Just like Jesus got the light around his head, he got the same light. So it's just a different concept, but it's the same thing. Different symbolism. So if you learn how to read the symbols, you'll be a lot better off. You'll see what's going on. Like I say, the goat just means that, I'm outside, I'm following myself. You know what I'm saying? I'm using my higher self. I'm using my own light to go in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? And you see it's got breasts. You know what I'm saying? So that's showing you that it's just not a man that we're talking about here. We're talking about a woman too. You know what I'm saying? So it's, always the opposite or the balance. That's what that means right there. Y'all think it's evil or it's demonic. You are the only evil or demon that could listen to through the thoughts in your head. That's how evil and demonic stuff comes into reality. So get back to this. So, I want y'all to know goddess is something that we had, which was balance, and we still have it. Goddess worship in our reality today, because most of our households are ran by the women. The men running all the affairs outside the house. So we still have a form of matriarchy or goddess worship in our whole realities today in America, and around the world. But I know for sure here, the blacks in America, we got that. You know what I'm saying? Believe it or not. Men think we run it, but then again, we know we don't run the household. So it just is what it is. Yeah. So they are the only people in the world, they at least, and such have learned the practice from them. They talking about the Egyptians who used circumcision. You know what I'm saying? But the Egyptians also learned it from who? The Ethiopians. We're just talking about how they do stuff opposite of each other. They say they are religious to excess. This Herodotus, you know what I'm saying? This white dude right here who's speaking on this, you know what I'm saying? This him, it's like I said, y'all just tapped in. This the father of history right here. They say, the oldest guy to document history, one of their great men like Aristotle, Pallades, this, that, and the third. It's this guy right here. So they say he the father of history, but at the same time, he documenting stuff that's older than his whole, country, where he came from. So how is you the father of history when you document stuff in Egypt that's older than where you came from, that's older than your people existing in your own land, your native land? So that's what we're getting at here today. So we're getting into some of his sayings and his teachings in his book. So I want y'all to check out what they were saying about the people in Egypt. What color was they? Who were they? How they did their thing? And here goes some stuff right here. They wear linen garments, they are especially careful to have always fresh washed. They practice circumcision for the sake of cleanliness, considering it to be better cleanly to be hold on, it better to be cleanly than comely. So yeah, the priests shave their whole bodies every other day, that no lice or impure thing may adhere to them. Mm. They dress entirely of linen, their shoes of the papyrus plant. Yeah, I just want y'all to see some stuff. And he talking about stuff we went through. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to go too fast because I want y'all to be able to screenshot some of this stuff. You know. So yeah. They talking about sacrifice right here. How they did all that, you know. But they were saying that they'll take the heads of the things that they sacrificed and sell it in the Greek marketplace. You know what I'm saying? And if there weren't no Greeks, they'll throw it in the river. So that's what they talking about right here. You know, they ain't eat the heads of certain animals because they was sacred. The cow, you know, the cow. Just like you say, Jesus was born in a manger. Okay, why was he in the manger? Because mostly cows and animals in the manger, but the main thing is shit is in the manger, which represents your lower self. You know what I'm saying? And you raise your higher self, which is your brain. So down here at the bottom of your body, not your feet, but your torso, you got shit. And at the top, you got the pineal, your lower self, your higher self. So he was born in a manger to represent him being born in nothing. And then he rose to his God self. But he did it as a man. And the same things as I do, greater things you can do. That's what they talking about right now. Yep. So they wouldn't kiss him or nothing because they had, you know, ate from certain animals, which was, you know, bulls and calves and stuff, and they wouldn't eat that. You know what I'm saying? Especially if it was a male calf. You know what I'm saying? Because it was sacred to them. Egyptians do not all worship the same gods, except in Isis and Osiris. So these were their two main gods: Isis, which is Aset, and Osiris, which is Asar. They couldn't say Aset, so they said Isis. They couldn't say Asar, so they said Osiris. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't say Heru, which was their son, so they said Horus. And here they go right here. You know, Heru means hero. You know, Heru is the one on the left, Asar in the middle. You know what I'm saying? The Isis on the right. That's balanced. Mother, father, child. You know what I'm saying? You know, so by Heru, why he got an eagle head is because he is the savior. He is the one who's gonna save and carry on his, you know, the union of his mother and his father that created him. So he is the resurrected, the reincarnated, true walking, living God on the planet. And that's the same thing Jesus, you know, he kind of represented. But people get it mixed up. He got a hawk head because the symbolism. So the hawk could fly above the storm, while every other creature on the planet has to go live up under the storm. You know what I'm saying? He could fly above the storm and wait the storm out. You know what I'm saying? He could fly the fastest of any animal on the planet, 280 miles an hour. You know what I'm saying? He faster than any animal around. He can dive and catch fish under the water. You know what I'm saying? So he can see even under the water and do his thing and go up. You know, he very calculated. You know what I'm saying? So that's just telling you the energy of the sun. The sun gonna get the job done. He gonna avenge his father. You know, if anybody knows the story of that, then you'll know what I mean. So like, so that's just, but it's talking about you. It's not talking about something outside of yourself. It's talking about something within yourself. You know what I'm saying? So let me get back. Okay. It says, on this account I have received this of Hercules. Hercules is one of the main gods in the Greek tradition, and he a hero. It makes him one of the 12 gods. The other Hercules, which one of the Greeks are familiar, I can hear nothing in any part of Egypt. So what they saying is Hercules. We don't know Hercules in Egypt. You say the Greeks, however, those who gave the son of whatever that name, took the name from the Egyptians. Because Hercules is the son of this guy here. They took the name from the Egyptians, and it was not Hercules, and not the Egyptians from the Greeks. Because the Egyptians didn't take nothing from the Greeks. is, I think, clearly proved. They say he took the name from the Egyptians and not the Egyptians from the Greeks. Is, I think, clearly proved, among other arguments, by the fact that both the parents of Hercules, Amphitryon, as well as Alcmena, were of Egyptian origin. So they gods, the gods of they gods, the gods of Hercules, the mama and father of Hercules, came from Egypt, not from the other way around. So it clearly shows that the Greeks were worshiping the Egyptian gods, not the Egyptian worshiping the Greek gods. Because, like I say, Greek is a new civilization. Let me get to that right quick. Greece is a new civilization, meaning that, okay, when did Greece come into existence, right? History reveals, and I Googled this, anybody can Google this, it's everywhere, History reveals that people started selling in this place 55,000 years. Now understand that. People started selling in this place 55,000 years before Christ, BC. They started harvesting crops around 6,000 years BC. Slowly villages came into existence as man formed groups and resided near each other. People gradually became attracted to this place and came and settled over here more and more, right? It was around 2000 BC, which is 4,000 years ago, that Indo-European invaders came and settled this place. So before 2000 BC, in Greece, it's telling you that they were black people. They still call olive skin today, and it's only two color olives, black and green. Okay, so let's get that settled. They came from West Asia. It was at this time that the Bronze Age came into existence. These people also invented the potter's wheel. The Greek language got formulated during this time. So the Greek language is only 2000 BC. So that even the people before that, y'all killed them off, came in and made a whole new Greek civilization. Then boom, what happened after that? Let me see. Did the Romans? Oh, so the Romans came and took over y'all. Oh, and who created the church? Rome, the Roman Catholic Church, the Roman Pope, the Roman Constantine. That's who wrote the Bible. As legend has it, Rome was founded in 753 BC, so only 753 years before Christ, by Romulus and Remus, twin sons of Mars, the god of war. You know what I'm saying? Left to drown in a basket on the Tiber, that's a river, by a king of nearby Alba Longa, and rescued by a she-wolf. The twins lived to defeat that king and found their own city on the riverbanks of 753 BC. So they killed somebody who brought them in and let them come in, you know what I'm saying, and took over the land, and boom, they've been living there ever since. You know what I'm saying? Talking about a she-wolf, a werewolf or whatever. But regardless of the fact, it ain't that old. So they took over the Greeks, and now they formed a church, took all these people's religion, demonized it as demonology and Satan worship and evil and this and that, and took all this knowledge, all this paper, because the Vatican got all that stuff, you know what I'm saying, hid in their vaults, miles and miles worth of ancient information, ancient books, ancient papyrus, ancient relics, you know, that they took from these people's spiritual worship, and using a lot of that stuff today. They're using a lot of it. You think I'm lying? Let me show you this right quick. Jesus' sign is what? Fish. You know what I'm saying? Pisces, right? Okay. What y'all think about this then? What y'all think about this? Oh, what y'all think about that? Fish. The fish. Y'all think y'all worshiping a new God? You not. On the right, that's the Pope. Why he wearing that hat? Why he look like a fish? Why he look like the same God of Dagon, the God of Babylon? Okay, y'all say I'm tripping. Okay. But what about this? Same gods, the Sumerian gods, the Anunnaki. There go the eye again of Egypt up in You know what I'm saying? The same eye. These same gods, different names, same thing. That's all they doing is they can't speak the language, so they changed into it. They translate into their language, which becomes a whole new deity depending on how people perceive it. But it's still the same energy. They evolving the gods. That's what they do. Yep. These are the same reptilian gods y'all talk about, or these fish god, or, you know what I'm saying? Look at your boy right here. He got the same hat on, the fish. You know what I'm saying? With the cross. Y'all think it's, you know, but they got these gods, man. Y'all should look them up and see what they're about. Then you'll better understand how your God works, because at the same time, these are the same gods from old. They just got new names. They were worshipped all throughout the land before these people came and, you know, took over that knowledge and demonized it, you know. So back to the presentation. So what they telling you is that they was borrowing gods. They was taking gods. They was taking these people's concept of God and taking it back and doing different stuff and making it their own God, giving it different names. It's the same energy, just different. Yeah, so voodoo lines up with Catholicism. You know what I'm saying? You can ask anybody. It's the same gods, the same deities, different names. You know, with the saints, you know, the real saints of Catholicism. You can use them in voodoo. You know, they do it all the time. You know what I'm saying? Haitian voodoo. You know what I'm saying? Even a lot of the Spanish stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's all they saying, that they borrowing different gods, and, you know, read it yourself. Yep. Okay. I mentioned above that some of the Egyptians abstained from sacrificing goats. Remember I just showed y'all about the goat? That's why. Because they know the goat is just as powerful as God. They know the lower self. Sometimes I need to be able to defend myself, and I might have to take violent measures to do that, to protect myself and to save my land and my people and my family. You know what I'm saying? So they will use the energy of pain, which is only the opposite of the Most High God. You know what I'm saying? And Pan actually happens to be, let me see. I did a little research, y'all. Just want y'all to follow me. Give me a second. Yeah. Oh, we just read that. Be the God of all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? But all this here also lines up with Ptah. Ptah is the creator God and maker of all things, a patron or craftsman. Sound like y'all God created everything from clay, especially sculptors. But this thousands of years, at least 10,000 years before right now. That's how long ago this was. Christianity is 2,000 years. So just understand, all this stuff came from older concepts of God. Older concept. This is what this dude relaying to y'all. A lot of this stuff dealing with the gods. So it's breaking down and understand, give you an understanding on how they looked at these different, you know. He said he would tell you some stuff in the names of their gods, but he won't go too in the detail into their rituals and stuff, because he was initiated into that. So he giving you his understanding. But it's telling you, Ptah with help Hestia, Vulcan. Vulcan is the European god, but Europe is also in Egypt. See what I'm saying? A divine blacks. You know, black people was in Europe at the time. That's what I mean. The divine blacksmith. Don't get this twisted. This means something. This means divine creator. Ptah was originally the local deity of Memphis, which is a town in Egypt, the capital of Egypt from the first dynasty onward. Memphis been the capital. The political importance of Memphis caused Ptah's scope to expand over the whole of Egypt, with his companion Sekhmet, which is a goddess, which is the feminine energy, which is the Lion of Judah that y'all say, which is actually a female, not a male, and the youthful god Nefertiti. know what I'm saying? He was of the Memphite triad of deities, which means a trinity of deities, which was worshipped in Memphis and was represented as a man in a mummy form wearing a skull cap and a short, straight, false beard, a mortuary god, the god of the underworld. What's the underworld? Your subconscious mind is the underworld. That's the abyss. That's Hades. That's the, all this. That's hell. That's where the evilest thoughts come from, or the highest thoughts. Because you got a God in there too. Alright. As a mortuary god. The tower was often fused with Seker, or Sekert. They also call him Stoker. And Osiris, the form Ptah Seker Osiris, which is a trinity. Sacred bull. So that's another reason the horns, when you see the horns, because they had certain stuff that was sacred because of the energy of the bull, which is the apis. And also, if you look in the sky, the stars are shaped like, a bull. If you look at the Taurus constellation, it's shaped like a bull. Had this tall stand style in the great temple of Ptah. You know what I'm saying? So he was also a manifestation of the God who gave oracles. So these are, and I'm not trying to get you into a religious thing, but I'm getting you into the concepts of what these Egyptians were actually doing. And when they talk about these different gods, what they had going on with this goat. Y'all look at the goat as something bad, but it's totally different from what they taught you. And you should know this by now. We all should know this. They teach us the goat is bad. But what is a goat? We're going to get back into that. All right. So, the pig is regarded among them as unclean, this and that and the third. So much so that if a man is passing and accidentally touches a pig, he instantly hurries to the river and plunges in with all his clothes on. Hence, too, the swine herds. So they weren't messing with them pigs neither, except for a certain thing. Y'all can pause and read this if you want to. Bacchus is a Greek god too that they call him, but it's still Osiris. It's not the same. Yeah. It says, having become acquainted with the worship of Bacchus through knowledge derived from Egypt, introduced it into Greek. So that's who this is, Melampus. Yep. And he acquired the art of divination, having become acquainted with the worship of Bacchus through the knowledge derived from Egypt. So they was going to Egypt learning and getting taught how to divine, how to tap into that spiritual energy, that higher self, that divination where you can see the past and the future. That's what they was going to school there. That's what the temples were. They was teaching them in the temples, in the churches. And it says it derived from Egypt. He introduced it into Greece with a few slight changes, just like I said before. At the same time that he brought in various other practices. So he brought in even most of it. He was a traveler. More likely, he talking about this guy here, but they was learning stuff. A lot of people was going to different tribes, different places, traveling around and getting their spiritual concepts and enhancing, their knowledge on tapping into that higher, natural source of energy. The same way Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, your cell phone data, you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, but it's energy. So you didn't need the telephone to tap in back then. You could just send a thought to somebody. You knew their name, knew who they was, tap into their energy through your mind, boom, call them like that. You didn't have to do all this extra stuff. So that's what they had a lot of that going on back then, that y'all think is evil, but it's actually higher. You vibrating on a higher level, get to some higher shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. For I can by no means allow that it is by mere coincidence that Bacchic ceremonies in Greece was so nearly the same as Egyptian. They would then have been more Greek in their character and less recent in their origin. Much less can I admit that the Egyptians borrowed these customs or any other from the Greeks. He said, much less can I admit. So that means that I can't even admit that these Egyptians borrowed these customs or any other from the Greeks, because they didn't. My belief is that Melampus got his knowledge from Cadmus, the Tyrian, probably another guy who traveled there. So you need to start looking these names up. And the followers whom he brought from Phoenicia, which is the black civilization. And I'm gonna show you a map of Phoenicia right quick. Um, yeah, it's the Phoenician world, which went from Spain all the way to Africa, Carthage, Sardinia, you know what I'm saying, all the way to Byblos on the right side, half of that Isle of Cyprus, that whole area, you know what I'm saying. So these Phoenicians were black people, Africans, who, you know, like he traveled, lived, and he saw some of this stuff. So that's what we're talking about. And it's called a new name now. But almost all the names of the gods came into Greece from Egypt. My inquiries prove that they were all derived from a foreign source. And my opinion is that Egypt furnished the greater number. So it's telling you, they even had gods from Neptune, and they finna get into a lot of stuff right here, like I say. But it says these other gods have been known from time immemorial in Egypt. This I assert on the authority of the Egyptians themselves. The gods with whose names they profess themselves unacquainted, the Greeks received, I believe, from the Pelagasi, whatever this is, except Neptune. Of him they got their knowledge from the Libyans, which Libya is in Africa too. So they had a lot of different spiritual systems. Same way they got Ifa, you know, Congo rites. You got the Haitian rites. You know, you got the Santeria rites. You know, so they got a whole lot of different traditions. But it says of him they got that knowledge from the Libyans, by whom he has been always honored, and who were anciently the only people that had got the god of that name. It say the Egyptians differ from the Greeks, also paying no divine honors to heroes. So they talk about these Olympian heroes, these Greek god heroes. They don't pay no tributes to them in Egypt. They never have, and I don't think they never did. Okay, this is a tale right here about two of the sacred women were carried out from Thebes by the Phoenicians, which they probably got took over with some other people, but they might did. And that story went from that one of them was sold into Libya and the other into Greece. And these women were the first founders of the oracles in the two countries. So oracles are like temples where you go in and God sit there. You know, just like our churches now, you go in certain temples and you catch the Holy Ghost. That they was more tapped in, so they could go in and, you know, get answers from the past, from the future. Should we go to war? Should we do this? Should we do that? You know what I'm saying? Y'all call it psychics or, you know, pseudo or voodoo now, but they actually had these things where you didn't have to go talk to a priest to give you answers. You go talk directly to the source. They talk about, you know, two black doves flew away from Egyptian Thebes. Remember that. And while one directed his flight to Libya, the other came to them. She alighted on an oak and sitting there began to speak with a human voice and told them that on the spot where she was, there should be henceforth the oracle of Jehovah. They understood the announcement because that's the language they speak. So they understood the announcement to be from heaven. So they set to work at once and erected the shrine. The dove which flew to Libya bade the Libyans to establish there the oracle of a moon. This likewise is the oracle of Jupiter, which is Osiris. I just said that earlier. The first from whom I received these particulars were the three priestesses of the Dodonians and whoever these is. But so this is a story. They going somewhere with it. Okay, so it says, now I think they're gonna break it down. Now, in my own opinion of these matters as follows, because it was a parable. I think that if it be true that the Phoenicians carried off the holy women and sold them for slaves, the one into Libya and the other into Greece, or whatever that word is, as it was called then, this last must have been sold to the whoever that is. Afterwards, while undergoing servitude in those parts, she built on a real oak a temple to this Jupiter, which is Osiris, the god of the underworld. Her thoughts in her new abode, reverting as it was likely they would do if she had been attending. So what they saying is that they was just, these women could see they were psychic. They gave them, you know what I'm saying? They gave them places to build a temple so they could tap into these oracles that they've had from their land. You know what I'm saying? Say they called them doves because they was foreigners and seemed to make noise like a bird. After a while, that mean they couldn't understand. After a while, the doves spoke with a human voice because the women whose foreign talk had previously sounded them like chattering of a bird acquired the power of speaking what they could understand. So they learned their language. The women. Well, how could it be conceived possible that a dove should really speak with the voice of a man? Lastly, by calling the dove black, the Didonians indicated that the woman was an Egyptian, a black Egyptian. Let's keep this thing plain, man. Let's keep it plain. Make sure this thing doing what it needs to do. Yeah. All right, y'all. Let's go. They were the first to introduce the solemn assemblies, processions, and litanies to the gods, the Egyptians, of which the Greeks were taught the use by them. It seemed to me sufficient proof that in Egypt these practices have been established from remote antiquity, while in Greece they are only recently known. So the Egyptians taught the Greeks. The Greeks got conquered by Rome and took their spiritual system, demonized most of it, turned Jehovah into this god, Jehovah, which is the god y'all worship now, but took all these concepts of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, all these trinities, this, that, and put it in one man, which is Jesus, which is a new creation of a Messiah who the Roman Catholic Church killed. Well, the Jews, but Rome was in power. They could have stopped them. The Jews gave them up, and the Romans did it, but the Jews did it because y'all gave them up. So, either which way, with respect to the Egyptians themselves, I'm talking so fast, it is to be remarked that those who live in the corn country devote themselves as they do far more than any other people in the world to the preservation of the memory of past actions. Meaning that they wrote more stuff to preserve the memory of their past. They are best skilled in history of any men that I ever met. Boom. So y'all said he the father of history, but he said they the father of history with his own words. In his own words. I'm gonna put it like that. In his own words. That's a mother boom. Yeah, that's a big boom right there. Let me get big right now. Boom. Yeah. All right. Let me go back to that. That's crazy. Okay. And let's keep going. The following is the mode of life habitual to them. For 3 successive days in each month, they purge the body by means of emetics and clysters, which is done out of regard for their health, since they have a persuasion that every disease to which men are liable is occasioned by the substance whereon they feed. So it's telling you what they ate is what caused them disease and stuff. So they will purge their body for 3 days of each month, meaning that they fasted. So they was doing this. They fasted more actually than the Muslims in Ramadan, because that's 30 days for the Muslims, but that's like 36 days for the Egyptians, and that might be where they got their stuff because it's older. Islam only 1,400 years old. This stuff over 10,000 years old that we talking about here. So he lived a few hundred years. Let me see when Herodotus lived. Matter of fact, let me see how old he is. Okay. Oh. 1 second, y'all. 1 second. All right. Yeah. So he lived 484 to 413 BC. I'm guessing. I don't know what this is. He was a Greek writer who invented the field of study known today as history. So he invented this field. But he just said, we just saw with his own words that this shit crazy. Oh my God. What did he say? He said that with respect to the Egyptians themselves, it is to be remarked that those who live in the corn country devoted themselves, as they do, far more than any other people in the world, to the preservation of the memory of past actions. They are the best skilled in the history of any men that I ever met. And these people went right over here and got something in. I think I got this from the Encyclopedia Britannica about on their website. And they said that he invented the field of study known today as history. How? When he said that, these other people was already doing it when I pulled it up. So he was called the father of history by the Roman writer and orator Cicero. So Cicero, you're a liar, for his famous work, The Histories, but has also been called the father of lies. And I could go with that. By critics who claim these histories are little more than tall tales. While it is true that Herodotus sometimes relays inaccurate information or exaggerates for effect, his accounts have consistently been found to be more or less reliable. Early criticism of his work has been refuted by later archaeological evidence, which proves that his most often criticized claims were in fact accurate, or at least based on accepted information of the time. In present day, Herodotus continues to be recognized as the father of history and a reliable source of information on the ancient world by the majority of historians. I could go with some of that, but he's not the father of history according to his own words. So I have to disagree. But since he was the first one to write this stuff down and it still survives today, and it's one of the oldest accounts of what was going on at that time, I got to go with some of the stuff that he's saying. So I'm not either against him or with him, but I'm just saying that, yeah, you the father lies for sure, because you ain't invent this stuff. History or studying history, they was already doing it by your own words. They adhere to their own national customs and adopt no foreign usages, meaning they don't adopt no foreign use of none of their customs, none of them. They ain't messing with them. They ain't rocking with them. Whatever y'all do over there, leave it over there. Whatever we do over here, we keeping it over here. That's what it's saying. Let's talk about some song or something that they sing. But these the chapters. You can go right to the chapters, so you can look up. Some of the stuff I did make a lot shorter, just to tap in on search stuff, because it'll be super long. We already about an hour in right now, 54 minutes. So I'm just trying to make this thing quick, fast, and for show. There's another custom in which the Egyptians resemble a particular Greek people, the Lacedaemonians. Now don't forget, the Greeks were originally black before they became, the Europeans took them over, took Greece over, as we saw earlier. And they were called the Etruscans, the Minoans, and the Phoenicians, and all of them was in that area already before the Greeks ever came. You know what I'm saying? But or the Euro Greeks, as I should say, the invaders, the ones who took the land over and got the land out. They say instead of speaking to each other when they meet in the streets, they making obviously sinking the hand to the knee. That's what they did in Egypt, saying that's how different they was than the Greeks. The Greeks didn't do that. You know what I'm saying? They talked about they wore linen. They couldn't get buried in wool. You know what I'm saying? They said, so how would he know? For no one initiated in the mysteries can be buried in a woolen shroud, a religious reason being assigned for the observance. So they couldn't get buried in wool. The Egyptians likewise discovered to which of the gods each month and day is sacred. Because this is what we're getting at. Herodotus, which is this Greek god, he went in and did all this studying in Egypt and documented a lot of the stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just going in and breaking down, showing y'all what he said. And he's saying that all this stuff is actually black people who was in Egypt at the time. So all these pictures of these other people y'all see all the time, when he lived, which was 484 to 413 BCE, before the current era, he was a Greek, and when he lived, it was black people still there running Egypt. So all this stuff about, Nefertiti white, that's a lie. Cleopatra white, that's a lie. Y'all might be mixed breed or real light, but y'all ain't white. Let's get off of that. Yeah, so now let me get back to Mike. Yep. Get back to where we was at. Boom. Yeah, they just saying how the Egyptians they discovered to which of the gods the months and days is sacred, and found out from the day of a man's birth what he will meet with in the course of his life. And that's what they called them oracles that they was tapping into. They knew how to do that in their temples. We don't know how to do that now. We come in, Jesus come in, get the Holy Ghost and get the shaking this and that, and Jesus don't tell you shit. But they could go tap in and it'll tell them everything. So understand, y'all think we progressed, but we didn't. We moving back the other way. We regressed, spiritually speaking. It says the course of his life and how we end his days, and what sort of man he will be. Discoveries whereof the Greeks engaged in poetry have made a use. The Egyptians have also discovered more prognostics, which is medical stuff, than all the rest of mankind, because whenever a prodigy, or it ain't got to mean that medical, it can mean something like occurrence, like the eclipse or something like that, something that don't happen that much. But what he's talking about is whenever a prodigy takes place, they watch and record the result. If anything similar ever happens again, they expect the same consequences. So it's just telling you they study everything in nature, because they was a part of nature. They had to survive through nature. So that's what they tapping in on right there. With respect to divination, they, which mean the Egyptians, hold that it is a gift which no mortal possesses, but only certain of the gods. So they had to tap into the gods to divine. Thus they have the oracle of Hercules, one of Apollo, one of Minerva, of Diana, which is a goddess, of Mars, and of Jupiter. Besides all these, there is the oracle of Latona at Bordeaux, which is held in much higher repute than any of the rest. The mode of delivering these oracles is not uniform, but varies at different shrines. So what they tell me is that they go in different temples and get different oracles and turn up and learn about the future, my life, what I gotta do, all the kind of bad stuff that might befall me or coming my way. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. It says here, he says about medicine is practiced amongst them, which these the Egyptians, on a plan of separation. Each physician treats a single disorder and no more. Thus, the country swarms with medical practitioners, some undertaking to cure disease of the eye, others of the head, others again of the teeth, others of the intestines, and some of those are not local. The not locals are the ones who come in there and learning all the gods, how to tap into the gods, the energies. You know what I'm saying? So this medicine, that was all one thing. It was spiritual and it was physical. The Egyptians are averse to adopt Greek customs. That means that they're against adopting Greek customs, or in a word, those of any other nation. This feeling is almost universal among them. At chemists, chemists. Chem is the root word of chemical. Chem means black chemical, melanin. However, which is a large city In the Thebaid Canton, near Neapolis, there is a square enclosure sacred to Perseus of Danae. Palm trees. I ain't gonna read all this. The people of Chemis say that Perseus often appears to them, sometimes with the sacred enclosure, within the sacred enclosure, sometimes in the open country. Okay, I just want y'all to see this word Chemis, and they worship a different god that they saying is the Greek god, but it's actually not Greek at all. I made inquiries of Chemites. Why was that Perseus appeared to them and not elsewhere in Egypt, and how they came to celebrate gymnastics. But like they say, they didn't worship no heroes who did all this all this stuff here. So gymnastic contest, unlike the rest of the Egyptians, they like the rest of them ain't celebrate all this, Olympics. To which they answered that Perseus belonged to their city by descent. I mean, Perseus came from their city. Diana, Denans, and Licinius were Chemites before they set sail for Greece, and from them Perseus was descended. So they tell you that they gods gave birth to the Greek gods. They said through tracing the genealogy and he, when he came to Egypt for the purpose. So that's what they said. They're going in. He said, thus far I have spoken of Egypt from my own observation. So this is what we're getting at here. This man telling you what he saw with his own observation from his own eyes. So we got to go with what he say when he say what he say. You know what I'm saying? But not 100 all the way, but just almost. Because this the oldest historian. That's what he's saying. The father of history. You know what I'm saying? The first person to document history. Which is they man's, but he's speaking on us. So let's keep going. I know y'all see this stuff. It says he's speaking from his own observation related to what I myself saw. The ideas that I formed are the results of my own researches. What follows rest on the accounts given me by the Egyptians, which shall now repeat, adding thereto some particulars which fell on my own notice. It says, next they read from me a papyrus the name of 330 monarchs, which mean kings, who they said were his successors upon the throne. In this number of generations, there were 18 Ethiopian kings. Let me stop right here. Okay, so it's telling you that the Egyptians, according to Herodotus, that they read him from a papyrus, the names of 330 kings, who they said were his successors upon the throne. In this number of generations, there were 18 Ethiopian kings and one queen who was a native. And I guarantee you these were the earliest kings of Egypt, because Ethiopia populated that whole area. So of course they would have 18 or 17 or 16 kings before it even get old, really before it even get established. And one queen who was a native. They had queens too in Africa, believe it or not. They don't tell y'all that. We always had balance, and most of our stuff was matriarchal anyway. The king just carried out the plan while the queen told him, yeah, this the move. Yeah, go with that. Because they more spiritual. They more tapped into that divine source. So like they ain't have to be priests, because they was already more tapped in than the men. So all the rest were kings and Egyptians. So that's what they telling you. All these monarchs, 330 were Ethiopian kings, one queen, and the rest were kings and Egyptians. The queen bore the same name as the Babylonian princess Necrotis, which I guarantee you, look up this name, it's going to tell you an African name, and that's where this came from. And it started more likely in Africa or Egypt. So they worshiping all of the black gods, not the blacks worshiping. They knew 2,000-year-old created God. That's what he telling you. It's before Christianity came in and took over everything and demonized all of this. Scroll down. All of this Chemite. This man telling you about the Chemite. All this Chemite. All this black. This black people stuff. In Chemis. He went there. And he telling you that from the start they had Ethiopian kings. There is no doubt that the Koshians are an Egyptian race. Before I heard any mention of the fact from others, I had remarked it myself. After the thought had struck me, I made inquiries on the subject of both Koshians and in Egypt, and I found that the Koshians had more distinct recollection of the Egyptians than the Egyptians had of them. Still, the Egyptians said that they believed the Koshians to be descended from the army of Sesostris. My own conjectures were founded first on the fact that they were black skinned and have woolly hair. Boom. The Koshians are black skinned with woolly hair. There's no doubt that the Koshians are an Egyptian race. So if the Koshians are black with woolly hair, that means that the Koshians are Egyptians. Black skin, woolly hair. Say it accounts to but little, because a lot of people had black skin and woolly hair back then. Since several other nations are so too, but further and more especially on the circumstance that the Koshians, the Egyptians, and the Ethiopians are the only nations who have practiced circumcision from the earliest time. Notice they didn't say Hebrew. Notice they didn't say this or that. They said the Ethiopians, which were the original Hebrews, by the way. While y'all hate Africans, Hebrews, y'all are the original tribe of the Hebrews. Is called the can't think of the name, but they exist right now in Ethiopia, tied to King Solomon, King David, Queen Makeda, Queen Menelik. The Ethiopian Bible called the Kebra Nagas. You can go look it up, Google it. It's free. Download it. Read about your true history from Queen Makeda. How she came in contact with King Solomon, had King Menelik. He went up to Israel, got the Ark of the Covenant, took it back to Ethiopia, and it's still in Ethiopia right now. I know more about Hebrews than Hebrews. Now this shit crazy. Let's go. Phoenician, Syrians, and Palestinians was all black too at a certain time, but they got took over by the Arabs. But they all confessed that they learned the Syrians of Palestine, the Phoenicians, they learned the customs from the Egyptians. And the Syrians who dwell about the rivers Thermodon and Parthenius, as well as their neighbors, the Macronians, say that they have recently adopted from the Koshians. Now these are the only nations who use circumcision, and it is plain that they all imitate herein the Egyptians. With respect to the Ethiopians, indeed, I cannot decide whether they learned the practice of the Egyptians or the Egyptians of them. It is undoubtedly a very ancient date in Ethiopia. Hebrews. Yeah. They didn't have commerce with the Greeks. But the Greeks and allowed their children to remain. I will add further proof to the identity of the Egyptians and the Koshians. This is the first historian that ain't even from Africa. He's a Greek. That means he's more likely white. He giving his rundown on what he's seen in Egypt. And he's telling y'all. So this is what I want y'all to know. I will add further, chapter 105, proof to the identity of the Egyptians and the Koshians. These two nations weave their linen in exactly the same way, and this is a way entirely unknown to the rest of the world. They also, in their whole mode of life and their language, resemble one another. The Koshian linen is called by the Greeks Sardinian, while that which comes from Egypt is known as Egyptian. Y'all can check this out pause it, check it out. But I just want to touch on certain stuff for time's sake. I don't want to be here all day. Um, Says they half whoever this is half Egyptian. The costume half Egyptian, half Ethiopian, and they just putting together. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read it. The pillars of Seostris erected in the conquered countries have, for the most part, disappeared. They got conquered by Arabs, stuff like that. White people, mixtures, blacks and whites mixing, and then getting took over by their children over time. But in the part of Syria called Palestine, I myself saw them still standing. They talking about some pillars of Seostris, which is an Egyptian, or a god, or either a pharaoh. More likely, so probably a pharaoh, but it's probably a god. But he's seen the pillars of them. He said, I myself saw them still standing with the writing above them in Palestine, mentioned, and the emblem distinctly visible. In Iona also there are two representations of this prince engraved upon the rocks. So he a king. One on the road from Ephesus to Phocaea, the other between Sardis and Smyrna. In each case, the figure is that of a man, 4 cubits in span, with a spear in his right hand, a bow in his left. The rest of his costume being likewise half Egyptian, half Ethiopian. So these pillars of Seostris, the clothes that he wore, or his costume, is half Egyptian, half Ethiopian. And this was in Palestine, which they more likely tore it down, because Palestine don't want none that ain't Hebrew up in there. There's an inscription across the breast from shoulder to shoulder, the sacred character of Egypt, which says, with my own shoulders I conquered this land. The conqueror does not tell who he is or whence he comes through. Elsewhere, Seostris records these facts. He said, though elsewhere. Hence, it has been imagined by some of those who have seen these forms that they are figures of Memnon, but such as to think so err very widely from the truth. Also, they made a division of the soil of Egypt among the inhabitants, assuring square plots of the ground of equal size. And this the king who actually was, like I said, made square plots of, he divided the land, in other words, all obtaining his chief revenue from the rent which the holders were required to pay him year by year. We'll be carried away with the portion. He's just talking about some stuff, but they tell you how geometry became into being from him dividing his plots of land up, and physically speaking, and getting to the people, making them pay or work the land. He was not only king of Egypt, but also of Ethiopia. He was the only Egyptian monarch who ever ruled over the latter country. He left, and this around his time, but later got conquered again. But he left as memorials of his reign stone statues which stand in front of the temple of Vulcan, 2 of which represented himself and his wife. These are 30 cubits in height, while the remaining 4, which represent his sons, are 20 cubits. I want to get into all that, but they went to a little beef right there. We got to get into that. But okay, such as they think the tales told by the Egyptians credible, are free to accept them for history. For my own part, I propose to myself throughout my whole work faithfully to record the traditions of the several nations. The Egyptians maintained that Sirius and Bacchus preside in the realms below. They were also the first to broach the opinion that the soul of a man is immortal, and that when the body dies, you enter into the form of an animal which is born at the moment. You know what I'm saying? And this is my other stuff, but they knew that the soul of a man is immortal. So y'all thinking that all is going to hell and is evil and this and that, they already knew past that. They knew that you couldn't die. So that's why they dealt a lot with the afterlife, because they know that there was eternity, and this right here is just temporary. There are Greek writers, some of later day, who have borrowed this doctrine from the Egyptians and put it forward as their own. I could mention their names, but I abstain from doing so. So he's saying that these are the first people to mention this. They were first to broach the opinion that the soul of man is immortal. And he said some other people say they came up with it from Greece. And he could divulge their names, but he ain't gonna do it. Ethiopian finally quitted Egypt. This means where they left. They stayed in the third. I'm let y'all pause the screenshot if y'all want to read this. Yep. Let me see this priest of Vulcan right quick. Let me find this. I got some stuff on Vulcan over here. I want y'all to see this. Okay. Ptah. See, Ptah is equal to Vulcan. He the creator God to make up all things. We just talked about that. But this nigga is created, he cool with Vulcan. You know what I'm saying? Or he's not cool, he's the same energy. You know, different place, different tradition, different culture, different people. His name Vulcan over here. But his name really is Ptah from an earlier date. They just adapted it, learned it, what it was, gave him a new name, took it to their land or they, city or whatever, and start practicing the tradition. You know what I'm saying? Because it works. They taught them how to do a lot of stuff, like we talked about earlier. So just understand when they talking about Vulcan and all these different gods, and people be like, well, I don't worship Vulcan, I worship Ptah. Ptah is Vulcan. It is Pan. It is Dionysus. It is Dionysus. All these major deities, it is God. You know what I'm saying? Just like it's telling you, it's a creator God, maker of all things, a patron of craftsmen. He makes everything, especially sculptors. High priest was called a chief controller of craftsmen. He crafted the world. The Greeks identify Ptah with whoever this is, but it's Vulcan, the divine blacksmith. Ptah was originally the local deity of Memphis. We read it earlier. So I'm just letting y'all know, bro. Y'all got to open y'all mind up to the fact that all these gods, all these different things y'all separating yourself with, is the same thing. And it's talking about you. Okay, it says, the first king of the last mentioned monarch, the priest of Vulcan, who was a priest of 341 generations. Thus far I have spoken on the authority of the Egyptians and their priests. They declared that from their first king to this last mentioned monarch, the priest of Vulcan was a period of 341 generations. Such at least they say that the number of both their kings and their high priests during this interval, now 300 generations of men, make 10,000 years. So this is talking about a period of 10,000 years that this spiritual system, these beliefs and all this stuff here was in existence before Herodotus, which is the father of history, actually just now recording. But it's 10,000 years before he recorded it. But he the father of history, so-called. Yeah. You say 3 generations filling up the century and 3 remaining 41 generations make 1,340 years. Thus the whole number of years is 11,340 years. That's how long they had before, that's how long they gods and they spiritual system and they worship of, that we call the Most High, the Creator, God, this, that, the third, Osiris, Asar, Aset, all this African, all of this black stuff that y'all hate so much. This is where y'all stuff came from. Different names, different traditions, different cultures, different time, but it's the same thing. And that's what he's telling y'all here if y'all ain't putting it together. And he says, in which entire space they said no God have ever appeared in human form. So this for the last 11,340 years before now. And this only 2,000 years later. So this 15,340 years from right now. Nothing of this kind had happened either under the former or under the latter Egyptian kings. The sun, however, had within this period of time on four several occasions moved from its wanted course, twice rising where he now sits and twice setting where he now rises. Egypt was not affected by these changes. The productions of the land and of the river remained the same, nor was there anything unusual either in the diseases or the deaths. But now they got corona. Such nature, the beings represented by these images, they were very far indeed from being gods. However, in these times anterior to them, it was otherwise. Then Egypt had gods for its rulers. So at one time, they did have gods for its rulers. Oh, that's what it says. However, in the time anterior to the 13,000 years we talked about before, to them it was otherwise. I didn't want them to skip that. I want to make sure I catch that. Then Egypt had gods for its rulers. So gods did walk the earth, who dwelt upon the earth with men, one being always supreme above the rest. The last of those was Horus, the son of Osiris, called by the Greeks Apollo. So he's telling y'all they call son of Osiris, which is Horus, which is really Heru, because Horus is the Greek name, Osiris is the Greek name. It means a star. They called him Apollo. He deposed Typhon, which y'all call Satan, Set, whatever. Satan, Typhon. But it's a long story about that. And ruled over Egypt as its last god king. So he got rid of Typhon. Osiris is the name Dionysus, which is also Bacchus by the Greeks. So he's telling you the same God, three different names though. And that's what I'm trying to get y'all to understand. The Greek regards Hercules, Bacchus, and Pan as the youngest of the gods, with the Egyptians contrariwise. Pan is exceedingly ancient and belongs to those whom they call the 8 gods who existed before the rest. Hercules is one of the 8 gods of the second order, who are known as the 12, and Bacchus belongs to the gods of the third order, whom the 12 produced. I have already mentioned how many years in the being according to the Egyptians between the birth of Hercules and the reign of Amasis. From Pan to this period, they count still longer time, and even from Bacchus, who was the youngest of the 3, they reckon 15,000 years to the reign of that king. In these matters, they say that they cannot be mistaken, as they have always kept count of the years and noted them in their registers. But from the present day to the time of Bacchus, the reputed son of Semele, the daughter of Cadmus, is a period of not more than 1,600 years to that of Hercules, son of Alcmena, is about 900 years, while the time of Pan, son of Penelope, Pan according to the Greeks was the child by Mercury, was her child. It's a shorter space than the Trojan War. I don't know what they talking about. I do know what they talking about. They saying that the gods ruled up under a certain period of time, and then man ruled, and they were just giving you a count on, the genealogy of the gods. You can go back and understand it. If not, just download it. It's in the link. Go back and read. You attack this. Okay, so let me turn my stuff off because there's something here. On this lake, it is that the Egyptians represented by night, the sufferers whose name I refrain from mentioning. And this representation they call their mysteries. I know well the course of the proceedings in these ceremonies. What the order of these ceremonies, what is he talking about? The mysteries. So he was initiated, he was learned, he was taught in Egypt the mystery system that y'all call the mystery religion, which is nothing but the the mysteries of nature, knowing how to tap into nature. Just like I said earlier, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, cell phone data, radio, light waves, all that stuff. There are energies that we can't see, touch, taste, smell, but they there. So we can tap into their energies now and do what we need to do. They talk on the phone, even do this presentation I'm doing, but it's all energy. So they understood that and they was tapped in, even though y'all, most people think they was dumb and they was stupid. Nah, they knew how to tap in. Y'all call them gods, but today we would call these same gods energies. We would say Bluetooth is up under Mars because it got this, and that. Such and such is up under this. Wi-Fi because you can do audio, this, that, and the third, or whatever. I'm just giving, not even examples, but just, concepts to make you understand. You know what I'm saying? He said, I know well the course of the proceedings in these ceremonies, which was the mysteries that he's talking about, but they shall not pass my lips. So too regards to the mysteries of Ceres or Sirius, which the Greeks term Desmorphia. I know them, but I shall not mention them, except so far as may be done without impiety. The daughters of Danas brought these rites from Egypt and taught them to Pelasic women of the Peloponnese, or whatever it is. Afterwards, then the inhabitants of the peninsula were driven from their homes by the Dorians. The rites perished. Only in Arcadia where the natives remained and were not compelled to migrate. Their observance is continued. So just understand, y'all. I'm giving y'all Herodotus, which is the father of medicine, you know what I'm saying? And how he, supposed to did all this and that. And, he the big dog. And, he did, he the Greek father of history. But we just proved that he actually absolutely is not. You know what I'm saying? Because he even said that when he got to Egypt, they had already preserved their history for 10,000 years plus beyond. Even a God's list, even a king's list went back further than, where he was at when he was writing. And this is the actual, who they say, the father. So you got to go start looking into this stuff yourself, getting your own knowledge, because if not, you just going to go with what they tell you. We pledge into Greek organizations and all this Kappa, Alpha, this, that, and the third, but they learned in Africa. So how you gonna learn from the Greeks when you is the source? They coming to you. But since you don't know that, then you get tricked. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't want to be too long, just like I said, but yeah, y'all tap in, share the video. We got it's the Conscious News Network on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. Well, we don't have an Instagram yet. Yeah, we do got Instagram, so follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and that helps supports these videos. You know what I'm saying? Support me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not even saying financially, because I'm just really here to teach the people and help the people out. You know what I'm saying? So I need y'all to just support, and share, like, you know what I'm saying, comment, ask questions if you got them. Go in there. I got the link in there so we can see exactly where we can see you can go in and get the book and download it and read it yourself on your own phone and get your own information. So that's all I want y'all to know. That's all I want y'all to know. So y'all stay tapped in, and I'm out of here, man. Y'all be good.